Do the Mets have a David Peterson problem? Mets manager Carlos Mendoza doesn't seem to think so. He said after Wednesday's game that he's not concerned, and there are no plans to change up the rotation with Peterson in it and Sean Manaea out in the bullpen. Peterson himself, after giving up 5 earned runs all in the first 2 innings of Wednesday's 7-2 loss to the Diamondbacks, made it clear that he's very confident that he can work through this and he has a solution as to how to do so. But Peterson hasn't been a good pitcher for the Mets for an extended stretch. You've got to go all the way back to the first half of last season when, give him credit, he was an all-star for the Mets and was pitching really well, a reliable presence in the rotation early in 2025. But he has a 6.14 ERA over his first 3 outings here in 2026. This is now back-to-back starts where he's dug the Mets into a hole that the offense could not climb out of. He's given up a lot of hard contact early, been missing a lot over the heart of the plate early. And again, you go back to the second half of last season, Peterson had an 8.42 ERA in his final 9 starts of that campaign. He has not been effective for this team for a while, and he's in a walk year. This is important for him to show that he's worthy of a big deal in free agency, but the Mets aren't focused on that. They want to win some games when they give him the ball, and if they don't have any plans to change up the rotation anytime soon, some Mets fans are going to be frustrated to hear that news, especially those who were booing Peterson off the mound here on Wednesday. Like I said, this is now back-to-back starts where Peterson has put the Mets in a position where it would have taken a Herculean effort from the offense to battle back after falling behind very early on. I wanted to run through the discrepancy between what Peterson said about his start after the game on Wednesday and Mendoza's evaluation. Mendoza, who spoke first in his press conference after the game, said that this was an execution problem for the left-hander, that once again, like he did in San Francisco, he was missing too much over the plate. And Mendoza specified right-handed hitters, and when Peterson is at his best, he's able to bury pitches on the inner third, have that fastball going in, have the breaking stuff going in. And he wasn't able to do that against the Diamondbacks. He was missing glove side, which would be out to right-handed hitters. And it's a simple adjustment. And again, when Mendoza was asked if he has a cause for concern here with the way that Peterson has pitched so far, he said, no, this has been our guy for a long time. He just needs to make some adjustments. Peterson spoke next in the Mets clubhouse, and when that was brought up to him, he was like, I don't think this is an execution problem. I think it's a usage problem, that the Mets have been, in his eyes, relying too much on his sinker and changeup, and that's put opposing hitters in a position where they can just sit on those pitches out over the plate, and that he hasn't used his fastball inside enough. And that was something that he did later in his start, which I'll get to in a second, when the 3rd through the 5th inning, he finished on a high note. I would push back there with that comment from Peterson because he's on the mound. He's the one gripping the baseball and throwing those pitches. He could shake the catcher off if he doesn't like what's being called in a certain spot. He could also bring this up pregame in the game plan meeting and throughout the 4 days leading up to his start, which I'm sure that he will do now leading up to his next outing against the Dodgers, where, man, if he continues to miss out over the plate, that's going to be scary for the Mets at Dodger Stadium next week when he makes that outing against a juggernaut of an offensive unit. But I think it's maybe somewhere in the middle there where when you look back at a lot of the hard contact for the Diamondbacks, where they had 7 hard hit balls in those first 2 innings, Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, Perdomo putting the ball in play with authority, and you look back at where Alvarez's glove behind the plate started and then where it moved to go to Peterson's pitches, I think this is an execution problem for him as well. But maybe it is a mix of the two, and that the Mets need to reevaluate their game plan for Peterson's starts. I mentioned the 3rd through the 5th inning. I think that's something encouraging here that maybe the Mets fans who booed Peterson off the mound can keep in the back of their minds leading up to his next outing, because he is going to make another start. The Mets have no plans to change up their rotation. He was almost perfect in those 3 frames to finish his outing before Sean Manaea entered and threw the last 4 to save the bullpen. He was attacking the zone, changing speeds, using all of his pitches. What else did I make note of? Throwing strikes, didn't give up any hits at that point, had the strikeout pitch going, was going after hitters, was more aggressive. It was a total Jekyll and Hyde type of outing for him where he really settled into a groove. And when Peterson was asked after the game what's his level of confidence that he's going to be able to use that and move forward and get back to the good version that we've seen from him in the past. He said extremely high with a very straight face. He seems to think that he's going to be able to bounce back from this. But as I mentioned, the Dodgers are the team that he's going to face next. So he and the Mets pitching department really need to think about how he's going to be able to get those Dodgers hitters out. And then it comes back to execution. Because if Peterson keeps missing over the heart of the plate like he did in San Francisco and like he did tonight at Citi Field, there's going to be a lot more damage from opposing lineups, which does not put the Mets in a position to win games when Peterson gets the ball.